story that they're talking about SpaceX might be trying to get a mission set together to send two shuttles to the moon. What do you think about that?
Mm.
The moon may soon get some new visitors. Just after midnight tonight, a SpaceX rocket is due to lift off, carrying a pair of commercial landers that will try to touch down in the coming months. One was built by a Japanese company and the other by a Texas company. Mark Strassman was among the last to see the U.S. lander up close and personal before it was shipped off for launch.
For example, when we launched, all right, go ahead. Yeah.
Well,
inside what's called the clean room, Ray Allensworth showed us this lunar lander. Her team has spent the last 3 years designing and building it. 6 feet tall, 11 feet wide, with 4 landing legs, hoping to touch lunar dust.
This is what's going to the moon.
Allensworth is the spacecraft program director at Firefly Aerospace.
Good to send. Sending command.
Firefly, based outside Austin, is a small space company with a big space dream.
It's been basically the only thing we think about morning, noon, night.
This really is a building largely of 20-somethings.
Yeah.
Creating the next generation of space.
I think that's one thing that makes us really different is they've been told no so many times in their career, so they don't know what can't be done.
The Blue Ghost lander was named after a species of firefly. It will embark on a 45-day journey to the moon. Its mission? Carefully lower to the lunar surface and deliver 10 payloads for NASA.
So if we kind of look down, you see over there, you see that spout kind of coming down?
I do.
So that's the drill, and it will deploy down and go into the lunar surface.
This drill will try to penetrate 9 feet below the surface to measure temperature. Another experiment will vacuum up loose lunar rock and dust.
Our payloads are collecting data so we can figure out what does it feel like to be on the lunar surface, to operate on the lunar surface. So all that data will inform when we actually return humans to the moon.
NASA's paying Firefly about $100 million for the mission, part of a new government effort to hire companies to fly experiments to the moon.
Commercial tech is advancing at a very rapid pace.
Jason Kim is Firefly's CEO.
And it's really bringing down the cost and affordability of systems that once took billions of dollars and countries behind it to land on the moon.
But Firefly must prove it can get there at a fraction of the cost.
And liftoff.
2 of Firefly's rivals flew into trouble on their first flights last year. One company, Astrobotic, suffered a mission-ending failure of its propulsion system. The other, Intuitive Machines, touched down but tipped over on the lunar surface.
It's extremely difficult to land on the moon. It's extremely difficult to get something in orbit, let alone landing on the moon. And so I think it's extremely humbling, but we really believe that this is going to be a success, and we're doing everything we can to make it happen.
10 miles to go.
No American-made spacecraft has landed intact and upright on the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972.
What would a successful...
That's my first time hearing about this. Okay, so shuttle as in how many people on the shuttle?
So the way I'm seeing it is it's written down as SpaceX, and this, like I said, this is from Ground News. This is I'm reading this verbatim. SpaceX is set to launch a Falcon 9 rocket carrying 2 lunar landers, Blue Ghost and Hakuto R, from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So I really don't see, I don't know if they have any other information about how many people are supposed to be on it or whatnot, but supposedly, they want to go to the moon.
Yeah, and pretty much we on the same page as being a shuttle, as in like damn near a bus, but a shuttle, you got multiple people on it, right? It's not nothing else. Like it's not like nothing like.
I really don't know all the details. I mean, like you said, this is the first time I heard about it too. I was just scanning through different information earlier, trying to see, different topics, how we do, looking at different things to look at, and I came across this one, and that was the first time I heard about it today myself. So this is the thing that this okay. So this is my thing too. Okay, so I watch other podcasters, you know what I'm saying, and I watch many different podcasters, different types, whatnot, whatever. Now, I don't know if you watch if you know who Candace Owens is, but I've been watching. I watched her for a long while too, and she's lately been doing stories on how the moon landing was faked.
Craft, you can kind of see the thickness there at the bottom. And they've moved the camera at the back of the spacecraft and they turned out all the lights. And you're seeing part of the Earth outside of a circular window. But it looks like the Earth floating in space from a distance. And this is the footage that we uncovered that proves that they never left Earth orbit, because there it is right out the window. And they're faking being halfway to the moon. They allegedly have the lens at the window's glass to shoot the tiny Earth far away. But when we show the final clip, you'll see that the camera's at the back of the spacecraft. All these segments we got were unedited. They only showed about 10 seconds of this to the public. That's why it says do not show to the public at the beginning of this unedited reel. Now, what you just heard, and you can play it again, is the talk, is because they're in Earth orbit, only a couple of hundred miles above the Earth, they would have an instantaneous conversation with NASA. Like, I might say, hello, how are you? They would say, I'm doing fine. How are you? I'm doing okay. But they're supposed to be halfway to the moon or 136,000 miles away. So what they did is they faked a 4-second radio delay, as if it took 2 seconds to go out to them and 2 seconds for the radio transmission to come back. So what you hear, if you want to play it again, is you hear NASA saying the TV picture looks great.
Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great. Over.
There are 4 seconds of dead air. And now you'll hear the CIA prompting them to speak after the 4 seconds.
Okay, Roger, we're dropping in on Earth.
So we actually have a third track of hidden audio of the CIA telling them not to speak until 4 seconds go by to create this fake radio delay. Now, if you go to the next clip, this is where Neil Armstrong lied.
Hi, Roger, Houston, Apollo 11. Calling in from about 130,000 miles out.
Yeah, so go ahead and freeze it there. So he just lied. This is the part that's in all the NASA reels. He claims he's halfway to the moon, but what you're seeing is really a circular window of the spacecraft with the camera back. If that were really the Earth floating in space, the lens would have to be at the glass, right? But it's actually at the back of the spacecraft. All the lights are off, and you're seeing a circular window in the foreground, outside of which is completely filled with the Earth and low Earth orbit. They even insert a little crescent piece of material into the window to make it look like the Terminator line between night and day. Now, if you go to 3913, and of course, all this is viewable on the homepage of Sabrel.com, you'll see the outtake. Go ahead and play this. And this is the part that really gets you. You can dim down the audio if you want. So basically, this is the outtake. We have the unedited reel. That's why it said don't show to the public at the beginning. And here they are removing part of the transparency in front of the window and part of the special effect. That's a work light inside of the spacecraft. And then the lights come up and you see that they're in Earth orbit all the time. And we're using a 1-foot model of the Earth using the circular window to fake being halfway to the moon. So you see that.
Okay.
Okay.
And she actually had interviews with a guy that actually wrote a book about it, whatnot, and had, and supposedly had the CIA and all them try to kill him and everything because he came out and said it was fake. Now, even way before Candace ever actually came out with that story or whatnot, years ago, I had came across footage and stories of people who said that the moon landing was a fake. You know what I'm saying? So I had dug into it, and I'm talking about like 10 years ago. I came across the information, and I never, thought twice about it. I looked into it a little bit, and I was like, it does look a little kind of fishy. You know what I'm saying? So then but I'm not no expert, and I'm not no expert on no photography or nothing like that. So all you can do is kind of go off of what people say. So you go off on one side to the other, and they say the moon landing was a fake. So they say that they didn't ever really create the technology to actually get outside of the atmosphere of Earth. So they can go so high This is the way they say that they can go up into space, but they can only go so high because once they hit a certain point, the barrier around Earth has so much radiation that there's no way to actually survive it. So they say there's no way that anybody ever actually went to the moon. And now I came across this story today where they're talking about, X is trying to launch. How did they put it? How was it? Their lead was SpaceX to launch 2 moon missions on 1 rocket. So I mean, like, what I just want to know what your opinions is on it.
Yeah, like, and so my follow up question will be, because you asked me, how I feel about them sailing to the moon. Like, my follow up question on that would be, are they going to come back, or is they trying to show them out there and they trying to make life out there, or?
Well, I mean, okay, so like I'm sitting here reading through the little hot points of it, and so I guess so I guess one of them, the Hakutu, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but I guess it was developed by iSpace, and it's trying to actually
Okay.
it already had a failed attempt in 23. So